She once dreamed of being an air hostess, only to be told she was too short. And now she's one of Australia's most recognised TV personalities and leading interior designer. I'm Penny Lane and this is In the Driver's Seat. From Selling Houses Australia to The Block and even winning Celebrity Apprentice, she has done it all. And in her spare time, she renovates her own properties, proving she can practice exactly what she preaches. And she's got an amazing singing voice. Shayna Blaze, welcome to In the Driver's Seat.
Hi Penny, so lovely to meet you.
So lovely to meet you too. We've got so many mutual friends. I can't believe we've never crossed paths before. I feel like I know you already.
Agreed.
Now, a quick one to kick off. What do you think makes a really good interior designer? Are they born or are they made?
Look, there's a bit of both. You've got, if you go to that beautiful analogy of a concert pianist, in the fact of that you can learn all the notes as much as you can and do a great job, but then there's the performer that actually puts the emotions and who they are into it. There's a distinct differentiation from someone who just follows the rules and does what's on trend compared to somebody that delves deep and goes with the heart and goes away from formulas and knows that they can actually work with structure and formulas, but it's all what I call the curiosity down the rabbit hole that gets you the warmth, the heart that you just can't capture.
Yeah, that makes sense. How did you first get into interior design?
There's two parts to that, in the fact that I didn't actually know interior design was a career. It was when I was in year 12, because, we didn't plan back then. I think it was like halfway through the year, and had to go to the careers counsellor. And, I put in all the data of the things that I loved and what I wanted to do. And it came up with fine artist, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a fine artist, and interior design. Did not even know that existed. So I put my portfolios in for both of them, and I didn't get into fine arts, but I got into interior design. And I didn't want to do it, but my dad said, well, you're not hanging around at home, you're going to do it. So he put in my agreement for the application, and on that first week, the first day, I met one of my best friends still to this day, and I did history of design, and I did freehand drawing and sketching and perspective, and I was just in love. And I was 17, and I honestly have been in love with it since. But I used to, like, my dad was a frustrated artist himself. He used to do lead lighting, cake decorating, knitting, and he renovated a house, and he used to take me to pick all the tiles and the carpet and the colours. And he wouldn't listen to one thing I said, he'd do it himself. But at the same time, from when I was about 14, we were always doing our own rooms and renovating. So I feel like the world of the arts was always meant to be in my life.
Yeah, sounds like it. What was the first property you designed, and what was the style that you went for?
Well, the first would have been Mum and Dad's home, because when I was in college, they needed a new kitchen, they needed a new bedroom. And it was a house that was, I'm trying to think. It was a butterfly house, which was in the late 50s, early 60s, which is quite an iconic design now, but it was just very average back then. And so it was around the early 80s. So it was a kitchen that was, high-end blackwood timber and laminate. And then the bedroom was, they had no money for doing that. So I actually painted a mural on the wall. I redid all their wardrobe and their bedside drawers. I covered them in hessian. I hand painted them. So that one was probably just a bit crafty. So it took a long time for my style to evolve. But when I was designing, it was in the early 80s. So everything was very skewed in that world of commercialism within that environment.
And was television on your radar back then?
No, not at all. I was singing in bands, so performing was always on my radar. I was singing from when I was, probably about 17, 18, and I was in bands at night and also in pubs while I was going through college. I did quite a few acting things, and so performing was always there. It was only really TV came into my radar when I had been out of design for so long and I wanted to get back into the industry. I had like 5 years out of the industry and I was what was called a dinosaur at that time. And
No.
I had to reskill myself and I went back to commission artwork. So I used to paint for people, and then it was a case of, well, how am I going to build a career, make money out of all this? And it was just a case of me just putting it out there going, what's my goal? What do I want to do? And it was a case of me saying, look, I want to be the go-to interior designer of Australia. I couldn't even get a job as an interior designer back then. So how I was ever going to accomplish that. And there happened to be a couple of people around me that said, look, why don't you just apply for some of the, the morning shows and do some little design skits and things like that. That never eventuated, but the seed was planted.
So that was the starting point. And when you went back to study, did that change yours? And when you were doing those patents, did that change your whole style again?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is with me, I always come from the artist's perspective rather than from the basis of doing houses and things like that. So I think the thing is, it took me in a different direction of being a businesswoman. When I first did design, I was working for commercial companies, and so they always ran the businesses, they did everything. But when I had bands, I used to have to run that as a business, and I was a single mum as well. So it was one of those cases where I had to make it financially viable. And so really, my perspective of my financial position and also where I was as an artist really defined the direction of where I was going to go and what I was going to do. And that came down to, if I'm going to spend time away from my kids, I've got to do what I love. I can't just go back to a full commercial environment. So I really had that thought of always being self-employed, making sure that I did jobs that I loved and made sure that every day I woke up, I just threw myself into it and made sure I loved everything that I came across.
I love your voice, and I also know that you was a jazz singer for 10 years. What was that like?
Honestly, when I was doing it to start with and when my kids were little and I was a single mum, I have to say I was having the time of my life. It was absolutely incredible. I worked with quite a few different bands. I worked in a swing band, a jazz band, a corporate band and a funk band. And everybody just had such a sense of joy and connection and collaboration. And I made most of my outfits, and I, worked with a couple of friends who are still friends now. And it was just one of those character building moments. And not only was it just the music, but I helped run the band and pulling the nights together, working out our outfits, working out the song lists. And it was a real sort of business development of creativity. But at the same time, and I say it really was what it sort of set me up for the world of social media where we live in these days, is that, I used to play a lot of little pubs, and there was a couple of pubs where they had a few buses that come in with a, bucks nights, not hens nights, they were bucks nights. And my girlfriend and I would be in these gorgeous little beautiful outfits singing jazz and being little chanteuses, and she was playing violin. So it was elegant, it was gorgeous. And we'd get these bucks parties coming in, and sometimes it was a case of like, you knew that they were going to try and throw you because they'd only be there for an hour and then go on to the next one. And so I learnt to work out who's the ringleader, who's going to be the smart aleck. And so I'd clock them before they'd really start saying them and work out to have my lines. So I always worked out, okay, who's going to be the loud one? I've got to put him down first, shut him up so everyone will listen and respect us.
That's very smart. So did you give that up to go back into interior design on TV?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is, when I auditioned for Selling Houses Australia, the fact that I had performance in me, like I'd never performed on TV before. I'd done a couple of commercials or something like that, but I hadn't presented, I hadn't performed in that sort of environment. So the fact that I'd been on stage performing live and everything was off the cuff and everything had to be quick and you had to think on your feet, that just worked really well for me for the audition, because they were wanting somebody to be them. They weren't wanting an interior designer to be a presenter. So I felt like all those things just fell into place for me. The fact that I had all these other skills that I could bring to another job.
Yeah, and that's probably why you've been able to front so many shows in all different formats. Do you prefer running your own thing or being part of something structured like The Block or Selling Houses Australia?
Wow. Look, as an Aries who gets bored very easily and who's somebody that wants to wake up every day doing something different, I would hate to say I would prefer one over the other. And that's purely because I need structure and I love structure, but after a while I feel like I'm being hemmed in and I want to break free. And so if I can flip between the two of like something that's quite structured and something that is completely freeing and something that you just work out how you're going to do it along the way, to me that's my balance. If I literally just had that structured job the whole time, I'd quit.
Yeah, I can see that in you. I really can. Now, I can't believe we're out of time. We're going to have to go for a coffee soon because I need to talk to you more and find out more. But for all of our viewers that are really interested in interior design, what advice would you give young hopefuls wanting to make their own mark?
I get a lot of high school students wanting to study design and wanting to sort of do design. It's about the longevity, and I think that's the really important thing is you won't find your voice in design straight away. So always be up for constructive criticism, and that's from people that you respect, not just from people online. Constructive criticism to do better and get better. Research and learn. The history of design is so important. Not enough people learn about that because the history of design is not just about structure. It's about how did we get that design. It's through economy, it's through weather, it's through revolutions, it's through war. There's so many things that really sort of give us the stars and the designs that we have. And use these, your hands. We are so caught up in computer drafting. We're so caught up in creating something on file. We know AI can actually probably take over a lot of that. But to actually design from the heart, you have to draw it yourself. And also when you're on a building site and things go wrong, you have to be able to pick up a pen really quickly, whether that's onto a piece of paper or a piece of timber, and redraw something because you've either the materials haven't turned up or you've run out of money or the builder can't communicate with you. So it's really important to have those hands-on skills of drawing, communication, and never stop studying and never stop going down the rabbit hole of curiosity.
What great advice. Shayna Blades, it's been an absolute inspiration chatting to you and giving me tips and everybody else for our own homes and for life. Thank you so much for joining us in the driver's seat.
Thanks, Penny, and look forward to that tea and coffee.
Let's do it. In the Driver's Seat is brought to you by the Perfect Cosmetics Company. This is Tika, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Ticker. We'll have more in just a few minutes.